Former Deputy National Security Advisor Katie McFarland. She's a board member for the American Conservative Union and the author of the book Revolution, Trump, Washington, and We the People. Katie, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much for being here. Tell me about your assessment of this humanitarian crisis. I was able to speak with the First Lady of Poland, and she said that it's going to be 5 million people coming to Poland very soon. She's expecting that this continues, and she says it's largely women and children that are coming over the border into Poland. Your reaction?
Well, half the children of Ukraine have left. And I think the humanitarian crisis only gets worse. As long as the corridors remain open for people to leave Ukraine, there'll be more and more going, especially after Putin has shown with Mariupol that his plan is just to level the cities, not two bricks standing up top of each other, and to kill any man, woman, and child who stands in the way. So the crisis will become far worse. And it also is a number of other things. It's the grain crisis. It's the Ukraine. There are going to just be a whole lot of other repercussions as Ukrainians leave Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, what about the cost of this? I've been talking about the impact on the European economy. You know, I mean, you're talking about much higher expenses for Poland. One of the representatives that I was with when I saw the First Lady of Poland said that they're going to spend $4 billion on this. You've got to believe that this is going to impact the economy throughout Europe. What kind of a cost do you see involved in something like this?
Well, President Biden's talked about $1 billion for Poland. I think it'll be easier to raise money for the humanitarian crisis of the Ukrainians leaving and going all throughout Europe than it has been to raise money for other things. I mean, if you just look at how the private sector has stepped up to provide aid to Ukraine. So that's the good news. The bad news is this is going to keep going. And what are we doing to make sure that it ends as soon as possible on terms favorable to the Ukrainians? That's my concern, Maria. What's the plan here? Is the plan to just, do they really think that Ukraine is going to defeat Vladimir Putin, push him out of office? Or are they going to stand by and let Ukraine be just leveled like Putin leveled Chechnya 15 years ago? Or are they looking for some middle solution? And if so, what is that?
Well, it does feel like the Russian army and the military has been a lot less than people expected. And certainly the strength of the Ukrainians have been an incredible upside surprise. James Freeman is with me this morning, KT. James, jump in.
Yeah, thanks. I'm wondering about that, KT. Is this another big failure by our intelligence community, or do you think it's just a remarkable, amazing kind of 1 in a million response by the Ukrainians and Zelensky, giving the Russians more than they can handle?
Well, everybody's miscalculated, right? Vladimir Putin miscalculated. He thought just by massing troops along the border, Ukraine was going to give up. And then he thought by invading Ukraine, he'd control Kyiv in, 3 days maybe? It's a failure by our intelligence community. And so what I'm concerned with going forward is everybody's always miscalculated about this. What other miscalculations are down the road? You know, the Ukrainians are doing us a huge favor. Why? Because they're fighting for all of us. They're degrading the Russian military. They're showing the world that Vladimir Putin is a pariah. So they're really on the front lines. I think we ought to give them everything they need to fight for themselves, by themselves. But the long term, James, is take away Putin's ability to make war. You know, if you guys have followed the oil prices for decades. Well, for 50 years, whenever oil prices are high, what does Russia do? It has a military buildup. It has proxy wars. It invades countries. When oil prices are low, the Russians hunker down. They don't do anything. And so why do we not push for more energy production, especially out of the United States, and drive the prices back down to where they were a year and a half ago, and then bankrupt Putin? So he has to hunker down. He can't go looking for new foreign wars.
Great point. Meanwhile, the news this morning, KT, got to get your take on it. The U.S. says it will be sending liquefied natural gas to Europe. As the EU tries to cut off Russian energy, the president made the announcement earlier this morning, and he tried to attach his efforts to help Europe with his climate agenda. Watch this.
This crisis also presents an opportunity. It's a catalyst that will drive the investments we need to double down on our clean energy goals and accelerate progress toward our net zero emissions future. The United States and the European Union are going to work together to take concrete measures to reduce dependence on natural gas, period.
KT, you got to explain this to us. Where is this extra LNG coming from to send to Europe? And what's the connection with the climate change agenda? In your recent op-ed, you wrote the best weapon the U.S. has to stop Putin and help Ukraine and other countries Putin might be eyeing down the road is not military, it's economic. Unleash the U.S. energy industry. I get that, but he's not saying he's going to do that, even as he says he's going to be sending LNG to Europe. So how will that happen?
Well, look, it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, what he said is great. But what he really should say is, look, I'm ending my war on fossil fuels. I'm going to let American producers produce what they want. LNG, the fracking community can ramp up pretty quickly. You're right about the LNG terminals in Europe, but how about we build them at our expense? This is costing us an awful lot as it is. How about we help build those LNG terminals fast? How about we help build those pipelines? That may take a year to have a big effect on Europe and Europe's energy supply, but a year from now is when Vladimir Putin will be looking for his next victim. Help the Ukrainians fight while they can now, and then deny his ability to fight, Putin's ability to fight in the years ahead.
Well, KT, we've been dealing with a lot of crises here in America, even with, the situation unfolding in Ukraine. You're talking about inflation. You're talking about worries about foreign policy. You're talking about an economy that's slowing down. And now we have one more worry to focus on, and that is food supply, global food supply. Watch this.
With regard to food shortage, yes, we did talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real. The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia.
Let's face it, Ukraine and Russia are called the breadbasket of Europe because it is the major exporter and producer of wheat. So we are looking at global food shortages now. That was one of the topics they discussed, the president just said, KT.
Look, why are we paying American farmers not to farm wheat? Let's stop that. Let's encourage American farmers, just like we encourage American energy producers. Let's encourage everybody in America to make stuff and grow stuff and build stuff. On the other hand, if you look at the Cold War and how Reagan won the Cold War, one of the ways he did it was when the Russians had several years of grain harvest failures in a row. That was when the Russians needed to borrow money from banks. They were shut off from the banking community by Reagan, and as a result, the Soviet Union collapsed. Why did it collapse? Low energy prices took away their revenues. Bad harvests took away their ability to feed their people. Loans, denying Russian loans, meant they couldn't borrow money to get through the bad period. And then we denied their technology. Right. That's how we did it before. Now do it again.
KT, thanks very much for your insights. Always a pleasure to see you. We'll talk soon. KT McFarland.